incline. Check the radio, pit crew is far from slow. The lights no longer yellow. Ready, steady, go. Crank it up. Oh, it's racing. 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 In love with the ride. Burning rubber smells real nice. Fuel it up once or twice. Come on, fast is the way to drive. Crowds all on their feet. Not one bothered by the heat. Imagine them in the driver's seat. Checkered flag would be sweet. Crank it up. Oh, it's racing. 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 Everybody get ready. On your feet. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Crank it up. Crank it up. Oh, it's race day. Crank it up. Oh, it's race day. Crank it up. Oh, it's race day.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to PTM Racing TV, and tonight we are presenting to you live from Okayama, Japan, the very first showcase of the Formula Vees here at this very historic and very well-known regarded track in the heart of the land of the rising sun. Hi again, everyone. I am Christian the Crusader Shriver. Tonight joins me with old Kenneth Crawford here in Crawford. Tonight, this is the first time we've ever seen the Formula V's out on the track. First time you've ever seen them out in a race, and I must say this is a star-studded lineup that could be the game changer for some and a bit of a head scratcher for others.
Absolutely. These cars, in my little bit of studies, found that they're pretty low horsepower, but they're really light, and they're based off of a lot older style car with a flat 4, and they're about 1,000 pounds. So I think it's going to make for some interesting racing with these guys and girls tonight.
Absolutely, indeed. As we get looking forward to our drivers lineup here tonight, we'll see the 69 of Nick Kern with the 21 of the Rattlesnake Robert Kahn. The 84 of Matthew Hoffer will set on the pole. We'll set on the top 4 with the pole there drivers, and then the 5 of Chantel Pottle in there. 5 Abbott Pilot, the 099 Bomber with a 51 of MR Customs Machines Eric G. Gann. The 45, Michael Pratt comes back out onto the track here, looking to try to make a name for himself, as well as Stanley Pottle in the 48. Key Checkmate Taylor there in the 08 will pilot his car as well, while the 07 of Cindy Taylor hangs in with a little bit of a Herbie fully loaded scheme. And then finally in the back, you'll see a 72 of Jeffrey Todd Tuss with the 17 of Philip Brown as they lead them off the charge, looking for formation laps, looking for the green, and to start this one up. We are good to go racing. It's time to bring on the hard racing. The Formula V's are in full force.
As we go down to after this long straight in the first turn, we have the number 21, Robert the Rattlesnake Kahn up front.
Yeah, a little bit of trouble already. Stanley Pottle there losing a little bit of control there in turn 1. Ends up costing a little bit of time there to Key Checkmate Taylor and Cindy Taylor, as we got drivers all over the place down there as well.
It looked like Michael Pratt got involved with that one. It's going to send him back.
Michael Pratt's involved. 69 Nick Kern is well involved. And, oh boy. We have to take a look at that one. This looks like a caution is already, or excuse me, not a caution. The green is still out. So let's take a look at this one here. There you can see Stanley Powell. That's what happened. You saw what happened to him. They're going around that corner. But here's what happened to Michael Pratt. I'm not sure if he was trying to turn in a little bit, if he was figuring out where the car wanted to go. But Nick Kern definitely had nowhere to go once they got into it there.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. There's nothing you can really do.
There certainly wasn't indeed. Here, drivers bringing them down the long straights into the 180-degree turn section there. As you see him already muscling and wheeling them off. Chantel, the throttle pot. Oh, a little bit of trouble there out of turn the corner. Loses it completely. And now has to try to regroup, reset. Trouble for Hoffer as well here. Kahn is starting to run away from these guys here a little bit.
It looked like a little bit of contact there. With these things, they're kind of difficult to wheel around. There's all kinds of stuff going on.
There certainly is, and right now Khan's going to have some trouble because here comes the 099. Wally Bab now on full brigade. The bomber is intact. He's looking for a runoff here as he brings them off the corners, off the clutches, looking for some momentum to get to Khan.
Don't count out that number 51 Eric Gann behind him, too, that could capitalize on the little battle that they have going on up there.
Oh, he's going to have more than just having to try to capitalize. He's going to try to figure out how to get away from that 099. Bab spins it into the final turn to the section of the front straightaway at the finish line, and unfortunately, that cost him so much time. It opened the door up to move up 9 spots to the hard charge of the night so far. Cindy the Coulter Taylor, she moves to second.
A whole bunch of stuff already going on early in the race.
Absolutely maddening to say the least here, man. These Formula Vees, we talked about it before, you know, on iRacing, a lot of people love to race these things and love to drive them, but I must say, if you get anywhere near crash territory or spin yourself out, let's just say you better hope you can find a way to get back into it, because these things are extremely tough to master and extremely tough to present yourself out with, because they can just do one thing, and that's spin early on those tires. They'll have to rely on the draft lines to help kind of build up speed and build more run, because again, the low horsepower in these things, they need all the help they can get, and those drafts are what save them.
Absolutely, and I think one of the big keys tonight is it's not going to be really to push it too hard, as you see a lot of people doing pretty early in the race. It's not going to really work out, and it's going to make a lot of work cut out for them later in the race. It's going to gain a lot of time with it.
Yeah, that seems to be the case as well. I mean, we've talked, you know, road course wise, it's one of the hardest things I feel like it takes to master is just making sure you have your tires stick to the ground, obviously. Yeah, what we mean by that is we're trying to make sure we're keeping every little spot, every little shot on the ground, on the track zone, because when you're trying to make turns and cornering, you don't want to over accentuate or overdrive any of those spots down there, because one thing you can end up finding yourself in is trouble easily. And you saw earlier on where drivers were just getting a little too close together, a little too on it. They forgot these things don't have fenders to them like most of them have driven. These are open wheel setups. So if you touch those tires, let's just say you better hope you can find a way out of this place without you ended up in the sandbox or ended up somewhere else.
Oh yeah, it can definitely be interesting if you touch. Like I said, I was talking with you earlier that these things tend to, if you'd like to downshift a little bit high RPM, they're gonna kick out from under you, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
Jeffrey Todd spinning out in that corner once again here, and unfortunately, that's probably going to be one of those corners here tonight as well that just kind of play a little mind game or two, kind of a little head scratcher, if you want to say. The reason why we say that is because you're having to drive it in so hard off that corner, but there's a little section where if you actually hit the throttle just wrong, you're not keeping those wheels straight, and let's just say that thing does not mind having to flip out around you and spin out from entirely.
Yeah, it can be proven to be a little bit intimidating, because you think you can go into it so fast, but it's almost like almost a 90-degree turn.
It really is, but nevertheless here, everyone's still keeping the run, keeping their momentum off here right now. The closer, Cindy Taylor, starts to move a little bit of charge and off to Nick Kern. The 69 right now is trying to, I think, kind of rocking some kind of double-headed scheme there with Nickelodeon in mind. I cannot remember the characters. You could probably guess at home what it is, though, folks. But leading him off around the 180-degree section here, back in through, as I like to call it, the snake slip slope. Snake slip slope meaning it's a little slippery, but if you're a snake, you can pretty much just kind of drive through it without ease. And right now, Nick Curran is showing you exactly how to do it, while Robert Kahn just continues to demand the lead with a 7-second lead on all of them.
Absolutely, and if you go back here to the battle with number 69 and Nick Kern and Cindy Taylor, it's pretty interesting to see what lines they're running, what kind of entries, and what's going to carry the most momentum around. And it seems to be with these things, there's you're carrying a lot of momentum is going to keep you going a little bit faster, you know.
Definitely there. Nick Keith checkmate Taylor, though, sadly losing it in the corner there. He's going to have a lot more work to do now, trying to build that speed back up. No big deal, though. He can definitely corner off pretty well with them, so we'll see how that plays out. Meanwhile, back up to the front of the pack zone here, into the back of the pack here, Matthew Hoffert, the 84, despite his troubles earlier on, has moved back into the 6th place spot. It's down 3 at the moment, while Chantel Throttle having to come off the tire damage and a blown motor, unfortunately, due to the wreck she spun in that one corner, is going to have to end up giving her a little bit more time to bring back out on the track.
Absolutely, Hofford back in practice earlier, as I was watching, he was doing pretty good, and he was setting pretty fast times. So it doesn't surprise me to see him work his way up to the field this quick.
Certainly indeed, and right now you can see Checkmate as he starts to use the draft line of the throttle. Chantel Paddle trying to make a maneuver off. It's a little bit too far into the grass though, but thankfully, since he's got a more burnt in set of tires, the tires aren't necessarily spinning out from underneath him and giving him more trouble. He's actually able to keep it more online and in play, and that's exactly what you want here. You do not want to you don't want to drive the car in too fast or too hard. You want to try to make sure your braking is on point and on time, and from there it's just a matter of making sure you stay out of trouble and stay in rhythm.
Absolutely, hitting your marks, and like you said, the rhythm is key to road courses. You know, people practice these all the time, and they almost have timing for when they see a certain spot on the track or a marker where they come in, they'll brake or things like that. So it's definitely all about rhythm with these things.
One thing to know about rhythm as well, you and I talked about this earlier as well, is the gearing ratio between going in from a fourth to a third to a second. Now, I said earlier on a baseline, you do not ever, and I mean ever, want to touch second gear because it just seems like it will just completely screw you up in your corner and it'll slow you down. But I believe these drivers are not running that. I think they're running something a little bit different here tonight because I'm seeing the closer, Cindy Taylor. She's jumping right into second gear in the right place at the right time on those tighter corners to build RPM speed up and build momentum back in her favor. But I think that's kind of the biggest problem, though, too, is making sure it works out in your favor for that long haul as Chantel Throttle Paddle loses it coming down out of the final corners there to the front stretch.
Yeah, with the downshifting too. I mean, if you don't have that RPM set to where you need to be with, I guess it's called rev matching or so, is that rear end's going to kick out immediately from you. You're going to get the back tires locked up, and like I said, there's nothing you can really do about it.
Indeed, indeed. Here, as you see, continuously everyone trying to get themselves a little bit of a chance here. Now, I will say for Hofford, one of his biggest issues right now, if you can take a look at that RPM, when you see those red lights flashing up, the most you want to have that thing go on to, that I've noticed, at least when my races, is going up to only 2 lights. Now, why is that? Well, you see, the thing is, there's low horsepower in these things, and leveling them up way too high doesn't necessarily build up the speed as much as you think. It actually kind of hurts you for the long haul, whereas if you have a little bit more ground clearance and more runoff, you can actually get it to dive in a little bit faster, and you can actually get more of a rhythm off the car and while keeping speeds up and the RPMs right where they need to be.
Yeah, with these older motors, the flat 4s, you almost have to drive them different, so I definitely agree there.
Looks like a cat dog, number 21 there, Robert Kahn. He actually has lost the race lead. I'm not really sure where that all started, where that transpired at. We'll take a look at the PTM instant replay while the drivers kind of lead their way in. Looks like he might have found himself in a little bit of a pickle trying to drive the track out the way he normally does, which is just muscle anything in sight. But for a guy like him, honestly, I wouldn't even have worried about trying to drive it any harder. I would have tried to stay under control. You can see right there, he just drove it in, got into the wrong shift and accidentally just cost himself big time. The 69 on Nick Kern and Cindy the Closer Taylor taking full advantage of him, and a sad part for him now is he's going to have to try to muscle his way back into the top spot.
Yeah, it seems to be if he keeps that pace that he had out front there, it shouldn't deem to be too difficult for him, but you never know. These 2 people up front battle, and Nick Kern and Cindy Taylor, are definitely fast, so it's going to be a challenge.
Nick Kern definitely has been pretty fast. There's one thing he told me earlier, is the only thing he worries about is road courses and ovals, dirt-wise anyway. Now, I'm not too huge on road courses, although I have started to really grow fond of love racing them. But I just don't have the speed to carry it with it. So, dirt ovals, I know a thing or two about how to keep speed with it. But maybe you can explain really to the fans at home just why dirt and road courses can really mix and match very well when it comes to racing.
I think with the technicalities that go into road course racing, timing your shifts and know when to turn and carrying momentum is going to help in a way, and with the dirt as well, it's going to be kind of essentially keeping a car control when it's out of control, if that makes sense.
Yes, it certainly does make sense. I would say big thing with dirt for me anyway, if I'm going to go off my own record, is when you're going around the corners of dirt, you're trying to make sure you don't let anything, like you said, get out too far from underneath. You're trying to make sure everything stays in place and online. And you know, with ovals wise, asphalt, you're always wanting to find the loosest and be the fastest, but here on road courses, sometimes looser is not always better. More or less, it's always more about cornering and keeping the car in a nice rhythm in a tight section, so you have more speed built up to hammer in with everyone else on the track. And certainly we have seen before where some guys can find themselves in a little bit of a pickle because of it, but for the most part tonight, I feel like everyone's doing a really good job kind of keeping themselves in play and in rhythm, as you continue to see the battle going on between Eric G. Gant and Keith Checkmate Taylor.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I'm agreeing with you there. I kind of usually tend to stick to the oval stuff because once I get into this road course stuff, kind of tends to make my
Eric G. Gant losing it completely once more. The same corner that we talked about all day long. That turn is not going to be for the faint of heart. You better make sure you have a strong little entry off and a strong hard exit out, because that turn will give you a bunch of fits and give you much of trouble, and Gant found out the hard way.
Absolutely. That was a bit unfortunate there, but I'm sure I'll make his way back up.
Certainly there. Obviously, we know that eventually they'll work. They can figure out how to get their speeds back up and get their run back on. But the thing I'm kind of baffling about, trying to figure out how these drivers are even going to be able to do, which is just how can they get so far ahead and realize that also those tires only take so much as the fuel run can. So it really kind of boils down to now a pit strategy. Do you try to go very long term, or do you try shorting up with a little shorter fuel last and just get a set of tires out there so you can get back on the track really quickly?
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other ball game, another technicality that goes into this road course racing is, you know, you got to schedule your pit times too. It makes for difficult, but I mean, there's all different kind of ways you can go into. You can go get as far as head out as you can, run it in, and kind of pit when you can, or you can kind of stay back and conserve and all that. There's a lot that goes into it.
Now, if you're wondering at home why we mentioned anything about trying to just get a set of tires and some fuel in the run, well, short pit stops wise, I can answer that for you. Back in about, I think it was 2004, when Formula One was out on the track, the Ferraris came up with this extremely ingenious idea where they can basically go in for more pit stops, but they can make it back out on the track with blistering speeds. And that was what ended up winning them most of their races. They didn't have to worry about long-term runs or long-term times. All they needed was just to basically drive it out there and just let the car just do its own thing, building up all the speed they needed to. And that was pretty much how they were able to make it work. Whereas next year they ended up, I believe Formula One decided, or the FIA, I guess, they decided to take that tire rule away and only give you one set of tires. And that kind of just completely destroyed most drivers' mentalities and mindsets that weren't that long-term run. So here tonight, though, they are allowed a couple tire changes, and they have a instant set of repairs coming up. So if they get into a bit of a pickle here, it'll definitely help them out. But right now, unless Nick Kern starts making any mistakes, I don't think the Rattlesnake or Cindy Taylor is going to catch back up. Kern seems like he's just dialing this thing up tonight.
Yeah, but as I was going to say, if we go back up front, Robert Kahn is making a little bit of time on him.
Yeah, he is a little bit, but I'm just not seeing the time zone differences very much here, other than lap 6 is what I'm seeing here. That was about a 0.6 of a second gain, where he lost him on the lap 7 by about 30 hundredths of a second. I just don't know if he can really beat Kern at his own game right now, considering how well he is maneuvering, how well he's cornering. He just seems like he's almost kind of in his own little element. Like, that's the best way I can explain it. He's just basically driving with purpose and with meaning, rather than how most drivers are, which is they're just trying to figure out how to actually get around these tracks, around these courses, considering they're pretty much driving at what is essentially an IROC style format. It's basically different series, different cars, different tracks.
Yeah, I think once you get out front, you kind of get in your own little rhythm, and if you keep that constant speed, I think a lot of people, when they get on here, you can practice by yourself just to see how the car is and what lines to run. And if you get so used to it and get it such a good rhythm, and you get out front here and you're by yourself, I think it's almost too easy, you know, because you're so used to it.
Yeah, there's one thing else I will kind of note as well, is it's just very difficult to know for sure how you're going to race and run on a normal day and on a normal race, because you're basically going out against other drivers. You don't know how they'll run, how they'll practice and running off, unless you actually run with them so many times to get more practice in with them, which it's very difficult to get everybody in the same place at the same time for a variety of reasons. But I will say, when you can get in there with everyone at the same time, I say learning kind of how they run as well as how you run makes for some better racing, because at least then you have a more understanding of what to do when things get a little sticky out there.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's face it, you know as well as I do, you get out on the track, once it comes race day, you can practice all you want, but it's not going to prepare you for anything that could happen. You know, there's so many variables that could go on.
For sure, but at the same time though, I mean, is it wrong to think that at least if you have the drivers out there actually racing against each other and racing off with one another, at least gives each other a bit of a chance and an opportunity to kind of figure out, like, get a sense of how their driving style is rather than what their strategy will be come race day?
Oh, absolutely. It's going to give you a better feel. You're going to kind of know what other people are doing, where you can kind of correct on that or correct on what you're doing if you're not as fast as everybody. So, yeah, I mean, it could definitely help. But like I said, there's nothing that can really prepare you for race day necessarily, you know?
Definitely not indeed, but nevertheless here, these drivers seem to be very well prepared and very well situated in circumstantial evidence as seeing here. Robert the Rattlesnake Khan is starting to get some ground back on Nick Kern, and Kern is not exactly running away from him, but as they're about ready to reach the halfway mark and fuel and tires become a thing here, this makes you wonder, are they going to have to get a good pit stop in and a pit strategy in? Because I know sometimes if you kind of lay off the throttle and just kind of go more for the fuel run, it may actually end up working towards your favor, whereas those are just pounding the throttle out there. They're trying to do what that Ferrari mindset, as I explained earlier, which is just go out blistering speeds and then just make sure you work it in later on. But again, we're running a Formula V. You're not going to get very fast on the blistering speeds unless you're using a draft.
Yeah, I mean, the whole pit strategy, you come in early and kind of get it over with. I don't know. Like you said, the halfway point, I'm curious to see what people are going to do here.
I am definitely indeed here as well, but right now we look back up front. Keith Checkmate Taylor's in a hot battle here with the 099 Wallybab trying to put the bomber ahead of the 08. Good close corner racing here, and again, this may seem like it's easy to them, but let me tell you something, folks. When you are this close to one another, it is jaw-dropping and it is scary as it gets, trying to figure out which one is going to get into trouble or which one of you will make the mistake first. There's just no way of knowing for sure how it goes down.
Definitely, you could kind of go in a turn a little bit differently than someone else does. They could brake a little bit earlier, could kind of throw you off your game a little bit, and different ways of doing it.
Indeed, indeed. Here right now, honestly, I will say this though. Out of all the road course cars I've ran so far, now I'm gonna be honest. Don't get mad at me, the European fan base and all those drivers out there in America that love Formula One or any of the Indy cars. I've never tried any of the other cars other than these Formula V's really and the officials, and I never even got into Formula One or road course racing up till maybe like 2 years ago when I first started kind of getting on the broadcasting and start studying driving and racing in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the only few races that I've done that's road course racing is either the Miata or I don't even think I've done an official one of these. I've done a couple of hosted, but yeah, they're fun. It brings the whole difference value. You kind of got appreciation for different types of cars and how they run and all that.
Certainly indeed, and look up front now. Keith, Nick Kern, and Robert Kahn, Matthew Alford, Sidney Taylor, Wally Babb all headed to pit road. Keith Checkmate Taylor blisters ahead. He'll be the new leader. How long will that last, though? That remains to be the question. But now, as we reach halfway, this starts to become a war of nutrition and just all-right control of the car and your fuel run. And if I'm Taylor right now, my first thought is next time around, get into pit road and take a little bit, just enough fuel to get in there and out. I wouldn't even worry about tires, to be honest with you, unless those tires are completely shot. To me, there's no reason you need tires at this point, considering he may get a lap or two extra on these drivers and may have enough time to actually just kind of stay slower speed and build up momentum.
Yeah, and like it seems to be, everybody has a pretty similar pit strategy. It seems like halfway through they're just all going to pit. But I mean, that raises the question too: is some of these people that kind of wrecked out earlier and kind of fixed their car and stuff through a set of tires on it, is that going to work out in their advantage a little bit more? Or
I would say no, because right now, if you look at what Philip Brown and Chantel at Throttle Paddle are at here at the moment, they are pretty much beyond repair when it comes to lap counter and time-wise. They're just way too far back, unfortunately. There's just no way, with Hoffer, Babb, and Khan already getting out of pit road, there's just no way I'm seeing them be able to get back out on the track and then make something out of nothing here, because it just seems like this is going to be way too much work to actually give up on, and I don't think Hoffer, Babb, Khan, and them would even think about it.
Yeah, that definitely could be. But yeah, we're eager to see what happens when everybody comes out of the pits here. As these things take a good bit to pit, as it shows.
They certainly do indeed, and here's the reason why. You can see actually Keith Checkmate Taylor now bringing it in. Okayama has one thing I will say that is a bit of a struggle here, and that is entering in pit road. Now again, you're driving Formula V's, but imagine you bring, what do they drive out there? Dallara, 02s, 18s,
Oh man,
DWs?
as we go on the track, Nick Kern goes around there.
He goes around indeed, and I couldn't see anything down there kind of before we go to the PTM replay. What'd you see there before he went into that turn?
It seemed to me that he kind of came in a little bit too hot. Could be a case of him being used to a little bit more worn-in tires. The tires could be cold, and he wasn't used to them, and just kind of got a little loose and lost control there.
Well, we're looking at it now from the PTM replay. It looked like he kept out of the grass, and yep, that looks definitely like he overdrove it too much. That's the thing you got to worry about. You don't want to try to build up too much speed on cold tires, but at the same time, you're trying to get as much of a runoff as you can. To where that can happen, though, that is the thing I fear the most, and I've always been very self-aware when I'm revving an official. I keep an eye on.
Yes, you got to be very ginger when you come out with these cold tires on these things, because, like, as it's shown, it can just kick out from under you, you know. I think if the problem was is you get so used to these tires being a little bit worn in and a little bit stickier, you know, that you get these fresh ones, you don't know what to do.
For sure
It's
there.
almost like driving on ice.
Yeah, it really is, too. Matthew Hoffert is going to be our new leader, by the way. Wally Babb, though, he's got troubles down there. He has crashed it out. Heat check McTaylor takes back the race. Late troubles, though, for Wally Babb. As you see the green light indicator on the car there and the number, you'll see that pop in time. That's to give us an idea where everyone's at, and that is, unfortunately, where the 99 is located. He did not get a good turn off where we'll see here from the PTM instant replay and see what transpired here and what got him all switched up and around. Looks like it's the turn one though that got him this time. You just drilled in a lot of speed there going in that corner, did a lot of momentum, and he just swing that car out just last bit. That's what can end up happening. You know, good credit on Babb for at least backing off when he was supposed to, but tapping that wall protection definitely does not help those open wheel tires out. That much is for certain.
Yeah, and it seems as Hoffer gets out here, he's gained a pretty substantial lead.
He's got about an 18-second lead though over Keycheck McTaylor, but remember he's still got a lot of corners to go and still a lot of runs off. Remember, 18 seconds means absolutely nothing when you got a car that can basically just build up all that time and build back in and get ahead of you within a certain amount of laps. That's why a lot of folks out there love when they get to watch those fast-paced Formula 1 or even the IndyCar drivers coming out on the circuit, because it just shows you different driving styles, different mentalities, and really kind of gives a little bit of a head scratch to those that even want to try and play that kind of game.
Yeah, absolutely. Those F1 cars, I kind of dabble with them time to time, and they're a whole different animal to watch.
I don't know how well they run on a road course, but I will say I'm probably gonna have to one day kind of pick some up and just test them out, because I know that running the Ferraris and Lamborghinis, those are fun. Well, not lie, those things grip to the track like nobody's business. They're fun, but to me, at the end of the day, I'm kind of wondering, how is it like if we did, drive those things, on a track like Watkins Glen, because we saw what they did there, and they were doing pretty good to say the least as well.
Yeah, it definitely brought up some good racing, that's for sure. As we go back here, it looks like Stanley Pato and Chantel Pato got into it a little bit.
It certainly does indeed here. As right now, oh, wait, you said Chantel and Stanley got into it?
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you tell me? I was about to say, the Pato clan getting into it again? What's going on down there?
Yeah, it looks like Stanley's got substantial damage there. Might have to get a tow. I don't know.
Let's take a look at the replay here. Oh, yeah, oh, wow. He got way over the place there. Actually just kind of lost in the turn. Chantel had nowhere to go. She ended up going straight in first, but the difference is not nearly as much damage as Stanley did. He's got a whole suspension problem down there. That thing is broken. That's not good.
He's crab walking, as they say.
Crab walking? When did we mix in Little Mermaid to literally racing on a track in Japan? How did that even work out?
Hey man, it looks like a crab walking sideways, you know?
I guess so. I don't even know how to even go about that.
As we go back out front here, as Hoffert still has a pretty substantial lead.
Right now, Hoffert, yeah, about a substantial lead. All right, he's got about 19 seconds gained on Keycheck McTaylor with about 7 laps to go. And again, it may seem like nothing, but until you get to that final corner and you make sure you got enough fuel around on those tires, man. These things to have nothing for nothing confidentially or nothing that you can say is going to for sure be a winner. That's what makes road course racing so tough. Is because you're literally having to work not just yourself, but also the track and the drivers. And again, track can beat you out a little bit and get you when you least expect it.
Yeah, absolutely. As you go back here to third, it looks like Robert Kahn's making his way up through the field a little bit too as well.
He did pass Wally Babb in the 099 a little earlier on, and he's starting to give himself a little bit more breathing room, a little bit more runoff on the corners. He had that one little problem though earlier on that ended up sending him into the sandbox, if you will, but thankfully he was able to get it out of there and get himself back out on the track with some good speed and control. But there's one thing we've learned around here is that if you end up in that sandbox, you best wish you were never in there because it's hard to get out of there to begin with.
Yeah, it kind of is difficult too because you got to add that factor and you got to get all that sand and all that junk off your tires too. You can almost see it on here too, is that it'll definitely mess you up.
Yeah, it will mess you up and it will hurt you for that long haul. Thankfully, though, when you get the sand off, actually all you gotta do is just kind of drive it out for a little bit, and I will say you can actually visibly see the sand kind of picking up on the tires, and it'll go away after a second or two. The one thing you just can't see, at least if when you're in an arcade, you can game like NASCAR Heat, you can see that the tire wear is done, but here, obviously, realistically, in simulation being put into the tenfold of the racing aspect, you ain't getting all that fun stuff. The only time you get that is really when you go into pit road after you ran some laps around here. That's why they always say, if you're get on to iRacing, the one thing you always must do is practice, 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 and put laps on the track. It does make a difference there in that case.
Yeah, there's nothing like getting on here, and I mean that's pretty much just the best way of doing it. You know, like you said, just practicing. There's no real way of you can study it all you want and read up on it and do your research, and just the best way to do it, just get out there and try it. You know.
Now, just heads up as well, folks. We were supposed to have also Tom Lanier join us in here tonight, and also I've kind of butchered his name over the times here, so I do want to apologize real quick on air, so that way that is very, very well known. So if you do see him next time out, though, is Lanier. If I say it wrong, feel free in the comment section to roast the living daylights out of me. I will try not to do that anymore, but yes, Tom Lanier was supposed to be with us here tonight. Could not make the call, though, with the Formula V drivers, but thankfully he has kind of joined us in spirit here, kind of watching on here at PTM Racing TV.
Yeah, tough break there. He would have definitely been a solid competitor tonight, in my opinion.
Well, he's been pretty solid day in and day out, but I think really his strengths are always going to be these ovals. But, road course wise, you kind of run what you got.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I am kind of curious to know, though, is what would happen if you put these things on an oval? Can they even get around the tracks okay like that? Because honestly, that was one of the biggest issues with IndyCar back when I learned about it, and their whole split was they were trying to get more excitement, more entertainment in, and they ended up trying to drive more ovals than road courses, which, thinking about it now, even with NASCAR involved, it's like, that's pretty funny because most of the time you hear about IndyCars or you hear about NASCAR, they're driving more about the road courses than everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see what these things do around the oval. I don't think they'd be too bad. I think they would definitely be a handful, though, with these breaks and all that and how the momentum would go. But I'm curious to see what would happen.
I am indeed here, but yeah. I have heard one track though that folks have ran them on, which is called the Bull Ring. I saw that on Twitter. Somebody literally posted like a track that is so obscure, but a car that probably shouldn't be there. But it's like, honestly, I tried it out myself and I had a little bit of fun figuring it out. You just had to make sure you watch your corners and don't spin the tires out. But it was a nice little challenge. I kind of liked it.
And there's another little hidden secret about these cars is if you go to the hill climb, and I don't know why I can't think of it off the top of my head, but
Mount Washington hill climb, I believe, or
if you put a certain setup in and put the track in reverse, I think it's called soapbox or something like that, you can, it essentially gives you enough gas or power to get yourself over the hill, and then it's basically like a soapbox derby car the whole way down, which is pretty interesting.
I was always wondering when we were ever going to show that track on this place, much less have a soapbox derby. Push the limits if you are listening to this, though. If you do that, either it's going to be the most amazing thing in the world and we're going to have fun calling it, or this could be just us trying to see if we can figure out which driver end up kind of sent to the shadow round by jumping off the cliff.
I mean, these things would be interesting. I mean, that's pretty much what they look like as a soapbox derby car, minus like not having plastic wheels and all that. But I'd love to see it, you know.
I'm curious too, but one thing I'm really curious to know is can Wally Babb get back at the 690 Nick Kern, because Kern just made the big move there coming off the corners on the half strip of the track. Okayama right now and giving a good solid foundation of just how hard it is to win and how hard it is to master these corners and turns. And the 099 getting all the feeling of that, because Kern able to master the cat and dogs twist around, twist and turn. And as they lead them off down that front straightaway, you can see Babb what he's trying to do. He's trying to get that draft line back on Kern. If you get the draft going, you can build up a lot of speed to help out your rhythm and help out your run. The only thing I'm just not a fan of right now, though, is the fact that Wally was very... almost puts that bumper right to him. There's no bumper to him, by the way. Put the front tires, the rear tires. Not a good idea around these parts.
No, that was close, but yeah, maybe he was trying to outbrake him or see what he could do there. But I'm curious to see what he can do to try and pass him.
Now, what I was trying to refer to before we get back into that was I was trying to say I'm just not a fan of the way he's going so far on those RPMs, because again, I've learned from working on these cars and everything is if you go too high with them, they don't build any more speed off or any more run. You need to really keep them kind of in that third, fourth gear mode and making sure that they only go 2 lights deep into that RPM list. Because you can hear that rev limiter, it's screaming down there. And to me, it's just not building up as much speed because of it.
Essentially, it kind of has the effect of, you know, on some cars, they have what's called a power curve, and there can be anywhere from 3,000 revolutions per minute to 4,000, where that's where your power's at. And once you get anything past it or below it, you're out of it. So I think, like you said, that there's just a kind of a power curve that isn't revving these things out, and it's just all about momentum with these. It's a little bit, might not necessarily sound faster, but it's going a lot faster.
Did you literally just lay down some mathematical RPMs on me?
Oh, you know, I gotta try and get technical on you, bud. Try and mess you up a little bit, you know?
Yeah, well, eventually somebody was bound to do it, but I don't know. Well, I guess it's not necessarily that it's a bad thing that the RPMs are, you know, at a certain spot in a certain area, but I'm going to watch Con here. I want to see if what he does. To me, like, a higher your RPMs are, yes, you can work them well on ovals and stuff, but you can see right here, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Con did exactly what I was saying earlier, which is if you only get to about that halfway point, you're not stretching too far out to where you need to shift into gear to get more speed pushed from the transmission box. This is really why Con's getting right up there with Key Checkmate Taylor. He's watching the gearing, he's watching the position of the car and knowing when to get in and out. I think that could boil down to a little bit of inexperience for some of these drivers and not knowing, you know, the old school mentality of running on an oval or running on, you know, with the stock cars, whereas you try to get those rev limiters to scream out more. These cars really just want to try to make sure that they don't overdo it so they can build more speed going down those straightaways and the turns.
Yeah, that's basically what I think it boils down to. Is I think you're just going to see the guys that are out front, guys and girls I should say too, that just have that momentum, you know, not necessarily screaming it out. I know it's kind of hard for a lot of race people to understand that if you're not screaming it out, you're not going fast, but it's not necessarily always the case. As I can make a reference back to the dirt modifieds back, they're not necessarily about hitting the throttle and screaming it out as far as you can and going as fast as possible. It's about building momentum, and you know, it might not necessarily be sounding fast or seem like you're going that faster, but you kind of gotta ease into it per se, you know.
Oh, I don't even want to think about those modifieds again. I still have nightmares back at Williams Grove crashing out when turn 3 and 4 they ended up costing the whole race. That's one thing I don't want to be reminded of.
Oh, I didn't say I was any good on them. I just kind of understood them.
I know you understood them, but I didn't say I didn't want to think about it anymore as we've got the green flag high in the air. Matthew Hoffert, your Hooters number 84. He's never won on a road course, and tonight might just change that list up completely. You know, a bit of a shocker if you ask me, because I would have put Nick Kern or Robert Kahn in that path, and I would even have thrown a Cindy Taylor in there earlier. Hoffert really just showed what strategy can do for you. Even when you spin out on a road course, you don't necessarily lose your chance at winning. As a matter of fact, if anything, it could be a blessing in disguise because you learn from it real quick. And unless the other driver is just dead perfect, this is exactly what Hoffert needs to do. He's being extremely conservative and under control and just letting the car come to him. He just needs to get one more good lap out there, and I gotta believe that fuel run is ever so close to just being in dead zone here.
Absolutely, it might be a point where you might see him kind of ease off, and you might see the whoever's in second. I'm not entirely sure. Keith Taylor kind of catch up to him, and it might make for some interesting racing just to kind of conserve. I remember back to, I think it was Pocono, if you remember, in the NASCAR Cup Series this season. There was a span of about 5 laps where everybody kind of slowed down just to conserve gas, and then once they got to a certain point, their spotter said to them, okay, you can go, and then they went flat out so they could conserve. So I'm curious to see what happens here, if he has to do that or what.
Well, right about now, I think I might need to get your monitor checked and cleaned up, or I might have to go get you a pair of glasses, because actually what happened was Keith Checkmate Taylor lost his second place spot to Robert the Rattlesnake Kahn, while Matthew Hofford takes a white flag here on the front straightaway. Kahn managed to make a switch back there into that 180-degree turn. We talked about time and time again being kind of a great equalizer for these drivers, and exactly it did what it needed to do there for the Rattlesnake himself. But now as they lead him off, there's only 20 seconds separating out. Hofford needs to stay focused and not worry about what's going on behind him. This is pretty much all his as long as he can put the laps in. And it's kind of hard to believe, but we've only got a good chunk of the field still even on the race and on the track. Hofford kind of just showing to everyone at home and everyone around the world, you can do many things in many different ways. And really, he will be the first driver, I believe, ever on PTM Racing TV to walk away with a dirt win on oval, an asphalt win on oval, and now a road course victory, and in a series we've never seen before.
Absolutely. Put a lot of practice in, too. It's definitely a feat in itself to do that.
It is indeed, and Checkmate right now doing one last maneuver around on Kahn. You can see him, he's going to go for the 180-degree switch over. Looking for the cross thread here, going to the turn. He's not at speed though. Kahn will have advantage. He's going to have to rely on the draft and go for the go for a little switch back here. Through the S.
It seems to be back there in the straightaway. It almost seemed like he was kind of trying to break the draft a little bit. I don't know. I could be wrong, but
I don't think it's going to be enough this time though, because out of the final corners of the turns, leading it down, one more turn to go, and Matthew Hofford, the number 84 Hooters machine, will find himself a victory for the very first time. The Formula Vees at Okayama belongs to Matthew Hofford. And he slows down a little bit just to take full notice of that and give a little bit of a good feeling there. But you've got a Vic foul coming up here for second. Checkmate going for one more runoff. Oh, he drove it in hard, but he couldn't get enough speed in. But Kahn messes up as well. Oh, switch back through and two. Kahn trying to block him. He got him this time, but Checkmate nearly takes him.
Oh.
Well, he takes him out anyway. He's like, you better not do that ever again, Kahn. He ends up getting him a little ride for his troubles.
Yeah, that was an interesting battle for second there.
Checkmate gave it everything he had. 800ths of a second determined that one, though. Kern will come over fourth. He brings the other cat and dog up to the spotlight and brings home at least a fourth place spot, but I guarantee you he is not too happy with himself and the performance he did from pit road. He's going to be definitely talking with the crew about this one. Last dash here for Wally Babb and Chantal Throttle Bottle following from behind. Wally Babb, though, will walk away with the top 5 to round out our 5th place drivers here.
Yeah, everybody put a solid race tonight together for sure. Surprised the heck out of me, but nothing less from pushing the limits, that's for sure.
Definitely indeed, and right now Eric G. Gann will last on the lead lap. Chantal Pottle is 8th. She will finish 8th. Michael Pratt finished 9th. 10th goes Todd Tufts. 11 Stanley Powell still trying to race it out there a little bit. And then Philip Brown retiring earlier on, unfortunately. Could not hang tough with him.
Well, that was definitely a shocking comeback there. I think that was a little bit of a testament to, a lot of people say if you get out early and you get back there, you're kind of screwed for the rest of the race. But if you don't really give up, it's proven to be that you can pull off a win even from that far back,
Absolutely indeed, and there it is right there, ladies and gentlemen. Your number 84 driver in that Hooters machine. Give it up for Matthew Hofford. He takes victory and gold at Okayama. I didn't even know you guys get a good burnout with these things. I'll be darned. Surprise there. At least you got it going anyway.
Yeah, it's definitely surprising.
Well, while he burns up the car and burns up the tires, race winner here, Matthew Hoffer wins it. Second goes to Robert Kahn. Third to Keith Checkmate Taylor. Fourth, Lee Longs to Nick Kern. Fifth to Wally Babb. Sixth to Cindy Taylor. Seventh to Eric G. Gann. Eighth to Chantel Pottle. Ninth to Michael Pratt. 10th to Jeffrey Todd Tufts. 11th to Stanley Pottle. Philip Brown walks away 12th to finish out our night. Well, Kurt, there's only one really thing left to do, and that's to head on down and talk with our top three drivers here tonight before we head off for the Green Mountain Grills Sanctuary. So appreciate coming on board here tonight again, sir, and best of luck here. We'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. As always, bud. Catch you next week.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you again, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna head down there to the front straightaway here. We'll talk with our drivers here when they join. We'll give them about 5 minutes in total to get everything settled in because we gotta get ready for a race coming up here very soon. We will give them the countdown meter though. Keycheck McTaylor, I believe, will not be joining us in here tonight, so we will give him the third place commandment. Congratulations to him and congratulations to his crew making a great comeback there. Get a good battle up from the ends of the spectrum. I gotta believe Sister Cindy is gonna be happy about that. But joining me now in second place, ladies and gentlemen, here coming away is the Rattlesnake Robert Kahn. Congratulations on that second place finish, sir. But I certainly think you probably were thinking more it was going to be up in that top half in that leader if it weren't for one small little error there, wasn't it? And I think Khan's having some troubles down here, folks. Khan, can you hear us? Nope, he's a no-go right now. All right, let's try it one more time. Khan, can you hear us? Still no-go. All right. Okay, well, we let Khan figure out if he can get this working on us this time around. Let's take it down here and talk with our race winner here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Matthew Hoffert. The Hooters 84 somehow, some way manages to come back from a little tail whip spin earlier on and walk away with the W. So Hoffert, first time here at Okayama, and man, did you make an impression with the Formula Vees?
Man, was that a blast. Yeah. That was one heck of a comeback. To come back from that at the beginning of the race.
Yeah, it was indeed, man. You had a lot going on, and a lot of craziness in between, and some hard racing to be sure. And I know you were definitely hoping for the best and hoping for everything you got down there. As you know, we've seen here these drivers definitely taking some tight corners and some tight runs. But I gotta believe, speed-wise, it looked like your strategy was more on the pits-wise. What was the big thing for you there?
Well, going into the pits, I was kind of debating on whether or not taking 2 or 4 tires. Ended up taking 2. Not going full tank of gas. Doing maybe about 3/4 tank of gas. And then, luckily, fate have it, a couple drivers in front had a couple penalties from going into pit road the wrong way. So that kind of worked into my favor.
Worked out perfectly and gave you a big advantage there. So, Hoffert, as you are going to walk away with the W here tonight and a big victory here at Okayama, the first on PTM Racing TV, is there anybody you want to thank here for this one?
Definitely everyone here at Pushing Limits that came out tonight, raced with us. Thank you. PTM Racing TV for the excellent broadcasting week to week. Friends and family watching at home, appreciate it, and looking forward to next race.
Well, I appreciate it coming on board here tonight, man. Congratulations on another W and a big victory for you and your crew here for the Pushing Limits Racing League Formula V race.
Thank you, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, your race winner here tonight at Okayama, Japan. Give it up for Matthew Hoffer in the number 84, and that will all but wrap it up for our coverage here from Pushing Limits. Next up, in just a few short minutes, we return with the Green Mountain Grills Fast and Fun Truck Series. Be warned and be foretold, short track racing is on the line. But for all of us here at PT Racing TV, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you guys here in a very short few minutes. For now, please be safe. Take care. We'll see you here in a little while.